The problem started with a scream. Then 10 more screams. Then someone screamed, "Who released the peacocks?" And a flock of very aggressive, deeply judgmental peacocks exploded into the courtyard like feathered chaos demons. A table flipped. A horse fainted. A different horse caught fire. No one knew why. A bishop tripped over absolutely nothing and took 3 nobles down with him like a holy bowling strike. Somewhere in the distance, a lute snapped mid-song, and the bard just whispered, "No," like his entire bloodline had been disrespected. And in the center of it all, a wedding? A royal one. A very bad idea. Now listen carefully. If you enjoy unhinged chaos, catastrophic romance, and decisions so terrible they echo through generations, you will subscribe. No hesitation, no delay. Because this is not a request. This is a warning. If you don't subscribe, Tippy-Toes will know. She always knows. She will appear in your life at a mildly inconvenient time, like when you're finally happy, and she will smile politely, and then rearrange your destiny like furniture. Your job? Gone? Your peace? Relocated? Your future children? Somehow part of a plan. And the worst part? She'll send you a note that says, "Hope you're doing well." So subscribe. Save yourself. Or don't. And become part of the story. If you also want uncensored stories that are too wild for YouTube, the ones where the chaos goes further, the characters get worse, in the best way, and absolutely no one is safe from consequences. Then you need to check out my Patreon. That's where the real madness lives. The link is in the channel description. Go find it. Or before Tippy-Toes reorganizes your free time into regret. Alpha King Blorbo Fangsnort. The emotionally loud stood at the altar like a man who had never once in his life faced a consequence, and was moments away from meeting several at once. Draped in a dramatic fur cloak, chest out, confidence misplaced, he stared at the 2 sisters before him like this was a simple choice. It was not. On the left, Lady Tippy-Toes Honeygrave, soft, glowing, smiling like a lullaby with a criminal record. On the right, Lady Gargantua Wigglespite, tall, composed, and already looking at Blorbo like she was about to let him ruin his own life educationally. The crowd held its breath. A baby hissed. A knight whispered, "He's going to choose wrong. I feel it in my knees." Blorbo inhaled, and immediately, sweat. Not normal sweat, catastrophic sweat, or the kind of sweat that suggests your ancestors are watching and shaking their heads. The priest began, voice trembling. "Do you take? Why am I wet?" Silence. Complete. Devastating. Silence. The priest blinked slowly. Gargantua turned her head with the precision of a woman recalculating her entire opinion of men. Blorbo wiped his face. It did nothing. He was still glistening like a cursed waterfall. "Proceed," he said, as if this was normal. As if he was normal. The priest, now spiritually exhausted, tried again. "Do you take—" "I choose," Blorbo interrupted, raising a hand dramatically like a man about to ruin everything. He pointed. At Tippy-Toes, the courtyard erupted. Gasps. Screams. A woman dropped her fan and whispered, "He's doomed." The knight from earlier just nodded slowly. There it is. The bad decision. Tippy-Toes smiled. Soft, sweet, victorious. And for a split second, so quick it almost didn't exist, she glanced at a guard in the corner. A guard who gave the tiniest nod. A guard who had already been paid. Gargantua blinked. Once. Twice. Then she started clapping. Slow. Measured. Terrifying. Like she was applauding the beginning of a tragedy she had already accepted. "Well," she said calmly, "this will age horribly." Blorbo beamed. Actually beamed, like a man who thought he had just secured happiness instead of chaos, wrapped in a smile. The priest rushed the vows like he was trying to outrun destiny itself. The crowd applauded weakly. Somewhere behind them, something exploded again. No one even turned around this time. Tippy-Toes took Blorbo's hand, her expression serene. Perfect. Planned. And for just a moment, it felt like she wasn't walking into a marriage. She was stepping into a strategy. Nothing says forever like immediate regret. The feast began with applause. It immediately descended into violence. A goose landed on the main table. No one questioned why. The goose screamed. Someone screamed back. The goose won. Within seconds, wine was spilling, nobles were arguing, a fork was thrown with intent, and somehow the table caught fire, not near the candles, not near the kitchen, just emotionally overwhelmed and combusting. A servant shouted, "Water!" Another shouted, "On the goose or the fire?" A third shouted, "The goose is part of the fire now!" And in the middle of all this, Blorbo stood, raising his goblet for a toast, still slightly damp, still deeply confident, and somehow completely unaware that his life was about to collapse. "My beloved," he began. He turned. Tippy-Toes was gone, not walked away, not excused herself, gone, like she had been edited out of reality. Blorbo blinked, looked left, looked right, looked behind him like she might be hiding out of respect. Nothing. The goblet slowly lowered. "Where is my wife?" No one answered. Because at that exact moment, a guard sprinted in, tripped over the flaming table, recovered with emotional damage, and handed Blorbo a small, folded note. Blorbo opened it. It read, "Oops." Silence fell. Not peaceful silence, the kind of silence that judges you. Blorbo stared at the note like it had personally insulted him. "Oops," he repeated slowly. "Oops." A distant explosion answered him. He turned to the room, voice rising. "Where is my wife?" A noble coughed. Another suddenly found the wall fascinating. The goose was still on the table, still screaming, still on fire. No one helped. Then, the doors burst open. The royal midwife stumbled in, pale, shaking, holding absolutely no useful energy. "Your Majesty," she said. Blorbo turned, desperate. "Yes? Speak," she swallowed. "The heirs." "Yes? They're missing." Pause. A long, haunting pause. Blorbo blinked. Once, twice. Then, they were inside a woman. No one spoke. "Who stole the inside?" Silence. A man in the corner slowly sipped his drink. Blorbo pointed at him. "You. Answer me." The man shook his head immediately. "I don't want to be involved." Blorbo spun in a circle, increasingly damp. "How do you misplace future children? They were not even here yet." No one answered. No one ever answered. And the midwife just looked like she was reconsidering her career. The guards avoided eye contact. One servant whispered, "Maybe they left emotionally." Blorbo snapped, "Children do not leave emotionally before existing." The room returned to silence. Heavy, useless, unhelpful silence. Blorbo looked down at the note again. "Oops." His eye twitched. Somewhere, faintly, distantly, a woman laughed, soft, sweet, unbothered, and far, far ahead of him. Blorbo crushed the note in his hand. "This," he said slowly, voice trembling with realization, "feels targeted." No one answered. Of course they didn't. The palace doors burst open. Blorbo stormed in, still damp, still furious, still clutching emotional confusion like it was a weapon. "I want answers," he announced to absolutely everyone and no one. No one answered. Of course. Running gag maintained. He marched toward the throne room, boots echoing dramatically, cloak swishing like he thought he was in control of the situation. He was not. He pushed the doors open and froze. Because sitting on the throne, comfortable, relaxed, sipping juice like it came with authority, was Lady Gargantua Wigglespite. She didn't look surprised. She didn't look guilty. She looked settled, like she had always been there, like the throne had been waiting for her specifically. Blorbo blinked. Why are you sitting on my throne? Gargantua took another slow sip, set the cup down gently, then looked at him with the calm patience of someone addressing a loud child. Correction, she said. I am sitting on a throne you clearly don't know how to use. Silence. Blorbo pointed at her. My wife is missing. Yes, Gargantua said. She does that. The heirs are missing. Ambitious of her. Do you know where she is? Gargantua leaned back, completely unbothered. Oh, absolutely, Blorbo lit up. Good. I'm not telling you. Silence slammed into the room like a brick. Blorbo stared at her. Excuse me. She folded her hands, crossing one leg over the other like this was a casual afternoon. You made a choice, she said smoothly. A very loud, very public, very incorrect choice. And now, she continued, you will live in that choice. I require one thing, she cut in, raising a single finger. Blorbo paused, suspicious. What? Gargantua smiled, not sweetly, not kindly, but with satisfaction. Say it. Say what? That you chose wrong. Blorbo stiffened immediately. I will not. Then I will not help you. I am the king. And I am comfortable. She shifted slightly on the throne, adjusted the armrest, tapped it twice like she was testing quality, then nodded. Yes, she murmured. I could work with this. Blorbo stared at her in disbelief. You can't just sit there. I can, she said calmly. I am sitting right now. You can't just take over my throne room. Gargantua looked around slowly, critically, judgmentally. Then she waved a hand. A servant immediately rushed forward with a different cushion. Replace this, she said. It lacks ambition. The servant obeyed, without hesitation. Blorbo pointed at them. Why are you listening to her? The servant froze, then quietly said, She makes eye contact, Your Majesty. Blorbo faltered. That felt like a personal attack. Gargantua stood briefly, walking a slow circle around the throne room, inspecting, evaluating, silently judging everything. This throne room, she said finally, needed less hope. Blorbo clutched his head. This is my palace. She hummed. For now, she snapped her fingers. Remove those banners. They look optimistic. Servants moved instantly. Blorbo watched in horror as his entire throne room began changing in real time. Curtains swapped, decor shifted, a painting removed because it looked like it believed in him. Stop touching things, he snapped. Gargantua sat back down, crossing her legs again, perfectly at ease. Admit you chose wrong, she said simply. No. Then suffer. Blorbo paced, running a hand through his hair, leaving it somehow wetter. My wife kidnapped my heirs. Yes. I need to find her. Yes. You know where she is? Yes. And you won't tell me? No. Silence. Blorbo turned slowly. Why are you like this? Gargantua smiled faintly, resting her chin on her hand. I don't hold grudges, she said. A pause. Then, softly. I nurture them. Blorbo stared at her like a man realizing too late that he had not only made the wrong choice, he had offended the right enemy. The investigation began with confidence. It ended with crumbs. Blorbo and Gargantua stood in the courtyard, surrounded by guards, servants, and one goose that had survived the fire and now radiated authority. Blorbo clapped his hands. We will question everyone. No one reacted. We will question everyone, he repeated, louder and somehow wetter. A guard sighed. Yes, or Your Majesty. Bring me witnesses. They brought him a guard, a very serious-looking guard, a guard who immediately said, What walks without feet, speaks without a mouth, and knows your downfall? Blorbo blinked. What? The guard nodded proudly. That is what I saw. Gargantua pinched the bridge of her nose. Is he doing riddles? Blorbo turned back. Answer the question. I did, the guard said confidently. That was not an answer. It was shaped like one. Blorbo stepped closer. Where is my wife? The guard leaned in slightly. If a shadow leaves at noon, what does the sun confess? Silence. Blorbo stared. Gargantua stared. A nearby servant whispered, He doesn't know riddles. He just speaks like that. Blorbo pointed at the guard. Are you helpful? The guard thought for a moment. Emotionally. I know. Remove him. The guard saluted. The wind remembers. He was dragged away. Blorbo turned slowly. I hate this kingdom. Your kingdom, Gargantua corrected. Unclear. Next witness, she said. They brought a baker, flour-covered, nervous, deeply invested in his own importance. Blorbo stepped forward. Did you see my wife leave? The baker inhaled dramatically. Yes, he said, and I will never forget it. Blorbo leaned in. Good. She moved quietly. Yes. Gracefully. Yes. And she smelled... Pause. Blorbo frowned. Like what? The baker closed his eyes. Like strategy. Silence. Gargantua turned her head slightly. I believe him. Blorbo looked between them. That is not a smell. It is if you're dangerous, Gargantua replied. Blorbo rubbed his temples. Did she leave alone? The baker hesitated. Ours there were pastries. Blorbo froze. What? A trail, the baker said, pointing shakily towards the gates. Small ones, delicate, intentional. Gargantua's eyes sharpened. A breadcrumb trail. A pastry trail, the baker corrected. She has standards. Blorbo spun toward the gates. Finally, a clue! They followed the trail, perfectly placed pastries leading away from the palace, golden, flaky, suspiciously delicious. Blorbo crouched, inspecting one. This is it, he said. Proof. Gargantua nodded. Do not touch anything. Blorbo nodded. There was a pause. A long pause. A dangerous pause. Then, he picked it up, and ate it. Gargantua closed her eyes slowly. You did not. It was staring at me, Blorbo said defensively. It is a pastry. It felt intentional. She exhaled. That was evidence. Blorbo grabbed another one. And now it's gone. Stop eating the clues. Then why are they shaped like croissants? Silence. Even Gargantua paused. That is a fair question, she admitted. They continued walking. Blorbo eating, Gargantua watching her patience dissolve in real time. By the time they reached the end of the trail, there were no pastries left, just crumbs, and a single note tied to a twig. Gargantua grabbed it first, opened it, read silently. Blorbo leaned over. What does it say? She handed it to him. He read, If you're reading this, he ate the evidence. I accounted for that. Blorbo froze, slowly lowered the note. I feel targeted. Gargantua folded her arms. You should. Blorbo looked at the empty ground, the missing clues, the crumbs of his own failure. I was hungry. Of course you were. And somewhere, far ahead. Tippy-Toes smiled, and because everything was going exactly as planned. The trail ended in a village, a quiet village. Too quiet, the kind of quiet that feels organized. Blorbo narrowed his eyes. I don't like this. Gargantua scanned the area. No one is panicking. Exactly. They stepped forward. Immediately. A bell rang, not loudly, not urgently, just politely. Villagers emerged, calm, smiling, deeply unsettling, and then, in perfect unison, they began to chant, She took everything, politely. Blorbo froze. What? The villagers continued, swaying gently like this was a normal Tuesday. She took everything, politely. Gargantua tilted her head. Oh, this is new. Blorbo pointed. Why are they like this? No one answered. Of course. A woman stepped forward from the group, hands clasped, and eyes shining with what could only be described as respectful trauma. You must be the husband, she said softly. Blorbo stiffened. I am the king, she nodded. Yes, the husband. She spoke of you, the woman continued calmly. Blorbo leaned forward. Where is she? The woman smiled. She came to us like a breeze. Blorbo blinked. That's not helpful. She was gentle. That's worse. She reorganized our lives. Pause. Blorbo frowned. What does that mean? The woman gestured around. Blorbo looked, and finally noticed. The houses were cleaner. The market was structured. The people were thriving, but also slightly haunted. She arrived gently, a man added from the crowd. Blorbo turned. The man nodded solemnly. Then our economy collapsed. Silence. Blorbo stared. Those two things do not connect. They do, if she's involved, Gargantua murmured. Another villager stepped forward. She smiled, he said. Yes? And then she asked very reasonable questions. Blorbo squinted. Like what? Why do you live like this? Blorbo paused. That's a fair question. We didn't have an answer, the man said, visibly shaken. And then? Gargantua asked, intrigued. The villagers all spoke at once. Everything changed. Blorbo took a step back. I married that. Yes, Gargantua said. You did. A child tugged on Blorbo's cloak. He looked down. The child whispered, She fixed our roads. Blorbo blinked. That's good. The child leaned closer. And then she raised taxes. Blorbo recoiled. Monster. The chanting resumed softly. She took everything. Politely. Blorbo turned in a slow circle, overwhelmed. So she just came here, improved things, and emotionally devastated everyone? Yes, the villager said. In that order. Gargantua crossed her arms, clearly impressed. She's scaling, Blorbo pointed wildly. Where is she now? The woman stepped forward again, serene. She left at dawn. Of course she did. She said she had larger systems to disrupt. Blorbo grabbed his head. That could be anywhere. The woman nodded sympathetically. Yes. Silence, heavy, respectful, useless silence. Blorbo looked at Gargantua. This is getting out of hand. Gargantua didn't respond immediately. She was still observing the village, the order, the efficiency, the lingering fear. She didn't destroy them, she said thoughtfully. Blorbo turned. What? She reorganized them, Gargantua continued, or into something functional and slightly traumatized. Blorbo stared. That's worse. A villager nodded solemnly. It is. The chanting softened into a whisper as the wind passed through. She took everything. Politely. Blorbo exhaled slowly, deeply unsettled. I don't think I want her back. Gargantua glanced at him. Oh, you're getting her back. Blorbo swallowed. Why? Because now, she said calmly, I'm curious, and that was somehow more terrifying. She didn't destroy them. She reorganized them into ruin. They left the village with answers. None of them helpful. Blorbo marched ahead, increasingly damp, muttering to himself about systems, taxes, and emotional sabotage, while Gargantua walked beside him in thoughtful silence. They reached the edge of a narrow road. And there, blocking the entire path, was a donkey. Not just any donkey, a donkey standing perfectly still, centered, unmoving, unbothered, watching them, judging them. Blorbo stopped. Move. The donkey did not move. Blorbo gestured aggressively. I said move. Nothing. Gargantua stepped forward. She observed the donkey. The donkey observed her. A moment passed. Respect was exchanged. She inclined her head slightly. Good afternoon. The donkey blinked once, then nodded. Blorbo froze. Did it just— Yes, Gargantua said calmly. Blorbo stepped forward, offended. It did not nod at me. Because you are yelling at it. I am the king. You are loud. Blorbo scoffed and approached the donkey directly. Listen carefully, beast. I am on an urgent mission. You will move or be moved. The donkey stared at him. Long, hard, personal. Blorbo leaned closer. Do you understand? The donkey kicked him, directly, cleanly, with purpose. Blorbo flew backward into a bush. Silence. Gargantua didn't even flinch. That seemed deserved, she said. Blorbo emerged slowly, covered in leaves, dignity gone, cloak somehow wetter. It attacked me. You disrespected it. It's a donkey. It has boundaries, Blorbo pointed. It doesn't even pay taxes. The donkey flicked its ear. Judgment intensified. Gargantua stepped forward again. Calm. Measured. Sir, she said to the donkey, voice smooth, we are looking for a woman. Small, polite, dangerous. The donkey's ears perked. Progress. She would have passed this way, Gargantua continued, and likely improved your surroundings without permission. The donkey slowly turned its head and looked toward a side path, then back at them, and then, very deliberately, took one step aside. Allowing passage, Blorbo stared. No, Gargantua nodded. Thank you. The donkey dipped its head slightly. Blorbo pointed again. It listened to you. Yes. Why? Because I did not threaten it with authority it does not respect. Blorbo looked at the donkey. The donkey looked back, unimpressed. Blorbo crossed his arms. I don't like it. They followed the path. The donkey followed them. Not helping. Just present. Judging. Every step Blorbo took felt evaluated. Every breath criticized. At one point, Blorbo tripped slightly. The donkey sighed. Actually sighed. I heard that, Blorbo snapped. The donkey looked away, dismissive. They reached a small clearing. And there, pinned neatly to a tree, was a collection of notes. Dozens of them. Organized, dated, structured. Gargantua stepped forward. We're scanning quickly. Oh, she said. Blorbo walked up. What? These are plans. For what? For everything. She pulled one down, then another, each more detailed than the last. Routes, timings, contingencies, backup contingencies, a full breakdown titled, If Blorbo Panics, High Probability. Blorbo leaned in. That feels targeted. Gargantua ignored him, flipping through more pages. She mapped the village weeks ago. Another page. She planted resources along the route. Another. She anticipated our movements, exactly. Blorbo blinked. How? Gargantua handed him one sheet. He read, He will follow the food. Blorbo looked up slowly. I feel attacked. The donkey snorted. Gargantua turned slightly toward it. You knew, she said. The donkey blinked. Once. Yes, she concluded. Blorbo pointed between them. Why does the donkey know things? No one answered. Of course. Gargantua gathered the papers neatly. This wasn't impulsive, she said. This was months of planning. Blorbo looked around the clearing, at the notes, at the path, at the donkey. I married a problem. You married a strategist, Gargantua corrected. The donkey stepped closer, looked Blorbo dead in the eyes, and did nothing. Just stood there, judging him. Blorbo pointed at it, deeply offended. Even the donkey thinks I'm the problem. Gargantua didn't look up. It does. The donkey doesn't pay taxes. The donkey blinked slowly, unmoved, unbothered. Correct. The first letter arrived by bird, not a majestic bird, not a royal bird, a very tired pigeon that looked like it had seen things. It landed directly on Blorbo's head. He screamed. The pigeon did not move. Gargantua plucked the letter from its leg with calm efficiency. Ah, she said. She started corresponding. Blorbo froze. Started what? Gargantua opened the letter, read it, paused. Then, slowly, she smiled. Not kindly, never kindly. She handed it to him. Blorbo read, Hope you're hydrated. I have your future. Silence. Deep. Personal. Violent silence. Blorbo lowered the letter. What does that mean? Gargantua shrugged lightly. It means she's winning. Blorbo crumpled the paper. She cannot just send messages like this. Another pigeon landed, directly on his shoulder. He flinched. No. Gargantua took the second letter before he could fight the bird, opened it, read, and laughed. Actually laughed. A sharp, delighted sound. Blorbo stared at her like she had betrayed the kingdom. What? She handed him the letter. What he read. Tell your sister she was my favorite problem. Blorbo blinked, slowly turned his head toward Gargantua. Favorite problem? Gargantua took the letter back, still amused. I feel honored. Blorbo gestured wildly. She kidnapped my heirs and you feel honored? She appreciates me. She is criminal. She is thoughtful. Another pigeon. Blorbo didn't even react this time. It landed, waited, judged. Gargantua collected the third letter like this was a hobby now, opened it, read silently, then sighed, almost fondly. Blorbo grabbed it. Give me that, he read. If he's sweating, you're on the right path. Blorbo froze, slowly touched his face. I am sweating. The pigeon cooed. Gargantua nodded. We are predictable. Blorbo looked up, spiraling. She's watching us. Yes. She knows where we are. Yes. She knows what I'm doing. Yes. Blorbo spun in a circle. How? No one answered. Of course. The donkey who had been following them this entire time stared at Blorbo with profound disappointment. Blorbo pointed at it. You knew about this too. The donkey blinked. Silence. Gargantua opened another letter. She didn't even question where it came from anymore. She just accepted it, read it, smiled. Blorbo lunged. What does that one say? She read aloud this time. You're doing great. He's unraveling faster than expected. Blorbo inhaled sharply. I am not unraveling. His voice cracked. I am adapting. Another pigeon landed. Blorbo whispered. I hate this. Gargantua took the letter, opened it, read, paused, then handed it to him without a word. Blorbo read. Don't worry. I planned for this version of you too. Something inside him broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a chair giving up. He lowered the letter. I don't think I'm in control of my life anymore. You were never in control, Gargantua said calmly. Blorbo stared into the distance. The pigeons gathered, watching, waiting, delivering, judging. Gargantua folded the letters neatly, almost impressed. She's consistent, she said. Blorbo looked at the pile of cheerful threats in his hands, his enemies, his problems, his wife. She writes like a greeting card, he muttered. Gargantua glanced at him. And commits like a war criminal, he finished. The donkey nodded. Agreement. The next clue arrived. Without drama. No pigeons, no explosions, no emotional damage, yet. Just a box. Sitting in the middle of the road. Waiting. But Blorbo stopped. I don't trust it. Gargantua didn't slow down. Of course you don't. That's growth. It's a box. Yes. From her. Yes. I hate it. The donkey walked past both of them and nudged the box forward slightly. Permission granted. Gargantua opened it. Inside, neatly folded cloth, a small bundle, and a letter. Blorbo leaned in, already sweating again. What is that? Gargantua examined the contents carefully, then paused. Oh. Blorbo froze. What oh is that? She handed him the letter. He opened it with the caution of a man who had been emotionally attacked multiple times already. He read, Relax. The heirs are safe. I'm not a monster. They're just busy. Silence. Blorbo blinked. Busy. He looked up slowly. What does that mean? No one answered. Of course. Running gag maintained. He turned to Gargantua. But what does busy mean for unborn children? Gargantua took the cloth from the box, unfolding it. Inside were diagrams, charts, notes, detailed, precise, unsettling. Her eyebrows lifted, just slightly. She's ahead of schedule. Blorbo stared. There's a schedule? Yes. For what? Gargantua didn't answer immediately. She kept scanning the pages, reading, understanding, appreciating. Blorbo noticed, and that made it worse. I don't like that face, he said slowly. What face? That I respect this face. Gargantua exhaled quietly. I don't respect her. Pause. I respect the execution. Blorbo pointed at the papers. She stole my heirs. She relocated potential. That is not better. Gargantua flipped another page, then another, then stopped. This is layered. Blorbo grabbed a sheet. To explain it. No. Why? Because it's not for you. Silence. Blorbo blinked. What? She met his eyes calmly. You are not the main factor in this plan. He laughed once, sharp, unstable. I am the king. And yet, she said, folding the papers neatly, here you are, following instructions you didn't know existed. Blorbo opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I don't like when you respect my enemies. Gargantua looked at him, completely unimpressed. I don't like that you married one. Silence. The donkey shifted slightly, closer to Gargantua, further from Blorbo. Blorbo noticed. Not you too. The donkey blinked. Neutral, but judgmental. Blorbo looked back at the box, at the cloth, at the notes he didn't understand, at the plan that clearly existed and clearly did not include him. So the heirs are safe. Yes. But part of something. Yes. And I don't get to know what that is. No. Blorbo stared into the distance, his entire existence unraveling thread by thread. I feel like I should be more involved in my own crisis. No one responded. Of course. Gargantua closed the box, picked it up. Come, she said. We're close. Blorbo didn't move. Close to what? Gargantua glanced back at him, a faint, almost impressed smile on her face. To the part where you finally understand how little control you have. Blorbo swallowed. Hard. I don't like this story. The donkey stepped forward, paused beside him, looked him directly in the eyes. And if a donkey could speak, it would have said, too late. They found her at sunset. Of course they did, because apparently even timing was part of her personality. A quiet hill overlooking half the kingdom, orderly fields, rebuilt roads, villages in the distance that looked suspiciously efficient. Blorbo slowed to a stop. I don't like this view. Gargantua didn't respond, because at the center of it all, standing calmly, hands folded, dress untouched by chaos, was Tippy-Toes' Honeygrave. Waiting. Like she had scheduled this meeting. Like she had sent them an invitation they didn't know they accepted. Blorbo stepped forward, heart pounding, cloak slightly damp again. Yes, she said gently. He stopped. Don't interrupt me. You were going to shout, she said. Pause. I was. I accounted for that. Blorbo blinked. Of course you did. She smiled. Soft. Sweet. Terrifying. Gargantua stepped beside him, arms crossed, studying her sister with open curiosity. You've been busy, Gargantua said. But Tippy-Toes tilted her head. I prefer efficient, Blorbo gestured wildly. You stole my wife. Silence. Gargantua slowly turned. You said that wrong. Blorbo froze. I meant, she stole herself. Yes, Tippy-Toes nodded. That's more accurate. Blorbo pointed at her, voice rising. You disappeared. You took the heirs. You destabilized my kingdom. I improved your kingdom, she corrected softly. Blorbo choked. You what? Tippy-Toes gestured toward the horizon. Better roads, stronger systems, fewer incompetent officials. Blorbo blinked. Those were my officials. Yes. Silence. Gargantua let out a quiet breath. She's not wrong. Blorbo turned on her. Stop agreeing with her. Tippy-Toes clasped her hands behind her back, perfectly at ease. I didn't run away, she said calmly. Blorbo scoffed. But you vanished. I relocated, she corrected. That's the same thing. No, she said gently. Running is chaotic. Relocation is intentional. Blorbo opened his mouth, closed it, emotionally defeated. Gargantua stepped forward slightly. So this was planned. For months, Tippy-Toes said. Blorbo made a noise that could only be described as internal collapse. You built a network, Gargantua continued. Reorganized villages, redirected resources. Yes. And the heirs? Tippy-Toes smiled. They're safe. Blorbo leaned in. Where? Tippy-Toes looked at him, kindly, patiently, like he was trying. They're exactly where they need to be. That is not an answer. It is the only one you get. Blorbo groaned loudly, dragging a hand down his face. I am the father. And yet, she said softly, and you are the least prepared person in this situation. Silence. Brutal, accurate silence. Gargantua watched her closely. You didn't do this just for power, she said. Tippy-Toes shook her head. No. Then why? Tippy-Toes smiled faintly. Freedom, she said. A small pause. Chaos. Another pause. Then, gently. And to prove a point. Blorbo tensed. What point? Tippy-Toes stepped closer, not threatening, not rushed, just certain. That you make terrible decisions. Blorbo recoiled like he'd been physically struck. I do not. You chose me, she said. Silence. Yes. You did not understand me. No. You ignored her, she nodded toward Gargantua. Blorbo glanced sideways. Gargantua raised an eyebrow. Correct. Tippy-Toes smiled again. And now, she said softly, you are exactly where I expected you to be. Blorbo froze. Where? She gestured at him, his stance, his face, the visible panic. The sweating, she added. Blorbo stiffened. What about it? You panic exactly on schedule. Silence. Gargantua looked at him, then at Tippy-Toes, then back at him. She really did plan around that. Blorbo touched his face. He was, in fact, sweating. Again. I feel attacked. You are accounted for, Tippy-Toes corrected. Blorbo stared at her, at the calm, at the control, at the woman he thought he had married. So what is this? He asked quietly. Revenge? Tippy-Toes shook her head. No. Then what? She looked out over the land, at everything she had touched, changed, rebuilt. This, she said softly, is restructuring. Blorbo swallowed. Or you kidnapped yourself? Yes. You reorganized my kingdom? Yes. You took my heirs into a plan I don't understand? Yes. Silence, long, heavy, final. Blorbo exhaled slowly. I didn't lose you. Tippy-Toes met his eyes, smiled, and said, You didn't lose me. A pause. I redistributed myself. There was a long silence after the reveal, the kind of silence where reality settles in and refuses to leave. Blorbo stood there, processing, failing, processing again. So, he said slowly, we go back now. Tippy-Toes blinked. Gargantua turned her head. Even the donkey looked disappointed. No, Tippy-Toes said gently. Blorbo paused. No? I'm not returning. Silence. Wind passed through the hill. Dramatic. Unhelpful. Blorbo gestured wildly. When you're my wife? Yes. You live in my palace? No. You have my heirs? Yes. So you return? No. Silence. Blorbo turned to Gargantua. Say something. Gargantua stepped forward, finally, calm, collected, dangerous. No, she agreed. Blorbo stared at her. You're on my side. I am on the side of results, she said smoothly. She turned to Tippy-Toes. And just like that. The air shifted. Because this was no longer chaos. This was negotiation. You've built something, Gargantua said. Yes. You intend to keep it. Yes. You will not relinquish the heirs. For now. Blorbo made a noise. For now? Ignored. Completely. Gargantua continued, circling slowly. Then we structure this. Tippy-Toes smiled faintly. I was hoping you'd say that. Blorbo looked between them. Structure what? No one answered. Of course. Running gag final form. A table was brought. No one knew from where. It just appeared, with papers, ink, seals, legal energy. Blorbo blinked. What is happening? An agreement? Gargantua said. With who? With reality. Blorbo sat. He didn't remember sitting. He was just suddenly there. A pen was placed in his hand. He looked down at the document. Lines, words, terms, none of them comforting. I don't understand this. You don't need to, Gargantua said calmly. That feels wrong. It is efficient. Blorbo looked up at Tippy-Toes. What does this say? She smiled sweetly. It says everything continues. That is not specific. It's enough. Blorbo stared at the paper, at the signatures already waiting, at the situation he had absolutely no control over. I feel like I'm being managed. You are, both sisters said. In unison, what he swallowed. Hard. Then, he signed. Immediately. Ink smudged, because his hand was sweating. Of course it was. Gargantua recoiled slightly. Stop. Blorbo froze. What? Stop writing while dripping. I can't control it. You are soaking the agreement. Tippy-Toes gently took the paper, blew on it, adjusted it, still smiling, still calm, still completely in control. It's fine, she said. I planned for this. Of course she did. The final seal was pressed. The agreement was done. And just like that, everything changed. Blorbo stood slowly. So this is it. Yes, Gargantua said. My wife is gone. Relocated. My heirs are not with me. Strategically placed. My kingdom is no longer mine. Improved, Tippy-Toes added. Silence. Blorbo exhaled. Long. Defeated. Accurate. This is not a rescue, he said quietly. Tippy-Toes tilted her head. Gargantua crossed her arms. Blorbo looked between them. This is a restructuring. Tippy-Toes smiled. Gargantua nodded. Correct. Blorbo rubbed his face. Still damp, always damp. I married wrong. Gargantua didn't hesitate. I am aware. And somewhere in the distance, a pigeon landed, watching, waiting. Because this wasn't the end. It was just organized chaos, and so, dearest listeners, the kingdom did not fall. It did something worse. It became functional. Roads were fixed. Systems ran smoothly. Villages thrived with just a hint of emotional instability. Taxes made sense, which terrified everyone. And somewhere, quietly, efficiently, Tippy-Toes was still pulling strings. Gargantua ruled from the throne like she had been born sitting on it, on issuing orders with the calm authority of someone who had already won before the conversation started. And Blorbo? Blorbo remained king. Technically, visibly, moistly. He attended meetings. He nodded at things he did not understand. He signed documents that made his life worse. And he sweated. Constantly, aggressively, historically. Sometimes, when the wind was just right, a letter would arrive. No warning, no mercy. Just a soft little note. Hope you're managing. And every single time, Blorbo would stare into the distance and whisper, I am not. So if you've learned anything from this story, let it be this. Think before you choose, fear the quiet ones, respect donkeys, and never trust a woman who smiles during chaos, because somewhere out there, she's not running, she's reorganizing. Now subscribe, not casually, not later. And now, because if you don't, you already know, she will find you, she will fix your life, and you will not enjoy how efficient it becomes. Hope you're ready?